Have you seen my caterpillar? My caterpillar. Name Lydia. I can't find my caterpillar. Have you seen him? Oh, you think he's around the trees? Oh, looky there. There's my caterpillar. Lydia, my caterpillar. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make Lydia the caterpillar, and you might like to come up with a name for yours. Then the most exciting part will be when you have finished making Lydia, then you can take Lydia on a walk outside and you can look for signs of nature, signs of spring. I know in my flower garden, Lydia, the flowers are getting ready to bloom real soon. So do we want to go on a walk later and see those flowers? So take your caterpillar out, kind of like Flat Stanley, and let's see if the caterpillar can go to lots of places, and post it on underneath this post so that other people can see where your caterpillar has traveled. The library system would like that. So I am Sarah Poff, and I am the Multimedia-Storyteller, and these are my art hands. So I'm going to readjust my camera a little bit so that you can focus on my hands and the process of making the caterpillar instead of just my face. So give me just a second here. Trying out a new system because I want it to be easier for folks to see what we're making. Okay, so supplies were listed in this at the top. So we're going to take an egg carton. Now there's many ways that we could do this. This is probably the part that an adult should do. If I'm an adult doing this, a box knife works real good, or a kitchen knife would work real good. However, if your children do it, you want to have the school appropriate scissors. I'm going to choose to use, oops, looks like I need to adjust it a little bit more. I'm going to choose to use these pointed ones. So I'm going to first cut, well, shucks. It's going to have to go up a little more. You know, no matter how hard you try, when you're a one-man show, it's still harder for you to get this in line. So I'm going to take these scissors down through there. I'm not going to use that part for this project. Now, it's a little bit hard to cut the bumps. So what I found over time is I go through and I cut from one side. So I'm going to cut them all from this side first. That's just easier. Then I'm going to turn this egg carton around. Easier for me. It might not be for you, but it's easier for me. And I'm going to start in here and cut that. So I'm cutting the opposite side. Each time I'm going through, I'm cutting the opposite side. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over. And what I want to do is I want to cut like right in here. Right in there. And you should be able to just cut right up into the cut that you already had there. See where I'm right there? So it's a little bit hard. But the cool thing is that we are using things that would otherwise get thrown away. I like to call, some people will call these recycles. I like to call them found objects. I found some objects and I was able to repurpose them, which a lot of people are into the repurposing these days. All right. So now we're only going to use one piece of this. Now as you see, this is uneven. So I'm going to want to trim this side down. Okay, and then I'm also going to go on this side and I'm going to trim it closer in so that it looks more like the side that we just cut. So I made my caterpillar, Lydia, a while back. And Lydia and I have gone on several walks along the time that we've been under home restrictions. Trying to stay home to stay well. So, alright, so there's my caterpillar. Now, there's always multiple ways you can do things. I have acrylic paint. Multiple kinds. I have water-based paint. This is called a tempera cake. This is probably my favorite kind of tempera to use with children. This is tempera cake. It kind of looks like the kids use a lot of times call it a hockey puck. So it's just a thick piece of paint. It works a lot like watercolor. You put a little water on it and then stir it around, stir the water around and let it soften and then paint with it. Plus, you could spray paint them if you had several you wanted to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to spend the time. Now, it takes a little bit of time. It might even be something with children, depending on their age, that you might have to like help them with. There's several ways you could do this. You can help them with it. Let them paint till they get tired, and then help them with them by coating it, coating what they didn't get covered. You know, sometimes when I've done it with real young students, I just left it like they did it. You know, those are kind of things that you as the parent, you as the student, as you're helping guide the children, as you're trying to decide what you like the most on it. So you could even come up with more of a texture paint. You know, if you wanted to, you could do something like that, where it's the all-over pattern of that. Now this is really an old-timey craft. Actually, I made these when I was young, back in the 60s. Oh, that would be the 1960s, not the 1860s. Now the good thing about the tempera cake, yes, see I got a little bit on my fingers, but it's kind of like watercolor. You just don't make the mess with it that you do with some of those others. And with wet tempera. I mean, wet tempera is always an option. Always an option. I'm going to need a little more water on my paint. I have my little Tabasco sauce bottle with water in it, because that way I can drop a few drops without getting way too much water on there. And you'll want to have a second coat if you really want this truly coated all the way. You're going to want to spend some time, try to do as best you can, boys and girls, and then go back and make a second coat. Or let it dry in that area and then come back and do it. It'd be fun to see how many places our caterpillars could go in our library system. You know, how many towns could we take this caterpillar and put it in as you travel around, as we get out a little bit, as people begin to get out, or you go to a park, or even you go out in the front yard. And like I said, my flowers are getting ready to bloom. So I'm going to take my caterpillar out and see what flowers are blooming in my yard, or maybe on my tree. There is that book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, that would be a real good addition to this lesson. All right, so I need a little water. And see, that's what another thing is. I like to keep the water to a minimum. There again, it keeps it just a little less messy. And I love to do art, but I also love to help children find a way that they can do more art and enjoy the art process, the creative process, without being so messy. And then moms and dads will let them do it more often. I think it's not that moms and dads don't want to, it's just sometimes it's kind of messy. So if you didn't catch what I call that, it's a tempera cake. It's called a tempera cake. And they say there's a lot of paint, that it'll last a really long time. I had these in my, this kind of thing in my art classroom, and I usually bought, it had 6 in the little palette, and I usually replaced like maybe half of them in a year's working with an elementary classroom. So that lets you know that it lasts a long time, because when you're in an elementary classroom, you use up a lot of paint. All right, so now I have my caterpillar painted. Now, you're going to need to probably let this dry a little bit before you go on with the next part. I did one earlier, so I'm just going to switch out. Get my paint out of the way. Looks like I forgot a napkin. We'll just put this down here. There we go. All right. So on decorating him, you could always take a marker. Make marker dots of different kinds. You could always take another color of paint and you could paint spots. I think this guy right here has spots painted on it. I did this one, I did tissue paper, because I was thinking about in the fall when we see those caterpillars and they're all fluffy, I thought maybe tissue paper, gluing tissue paper on him might add something to him. Let's see. I was looking through, because I'm trying, since we're not going out to Hobby Lobby, Michael's, all those craft stores right now like we were, I was thinking about what you might have on hand. You might have some little circles, those reinforcers. You might have those. Those could be put on here, and that could be fun. You could, maybe you have some stickers, like file folder stickers. Or maybe you have just some colored paper. And you can take and cut out spots and put on there. You can take and use a hole punch and do that. There's just, there's a variety. I have a little package here that I'm going to use. I have a package of dots. I always keep things like this when I do a bunch for a project. I keep them. I think these were for some Van Gogh sunflowers. But if I keep them in a Ziploc, then when I go to find it for the next project, I will have some things to choose from. So then the easiest way on something like this is to put the dots on there. The youngest children, you can always just do the dots. The older kids, of course, like to do their own. The little kids like to do glue too. And I always just like this project, it's hard to do with a glue stick. So the trick is to not open the glue bottle very much. See how I just barely have it open? So that this just doesn't come bubbling out and a whole lot, but it has a little bit in it. And then the easiest way to get a dot on there is just to take your finger. Now sometimes I touch it to my tongue. And that makes it go real quick. I think those little reinforcer circles would be fun. They also would be fun for eyes. I just want to give you multiple ways because there's no right way. When you're doing art and you're having fun with it, there's just no right way and there's no wrong way. I always tell the students when I teach is the main thing is that you use the supplies that I've gotten out, that I have on hand. You can fit it in the time that we have. Those are the regulations. But even a simple project like this, there's a lot of creativity that could be done with one of these. And yes, I've seen them, anyone. There's been some times, when maybe you're not in the best place to have paint out and you're wanting something for the kids to do craft-wise. What I've done before is I've given them the caterpillar base of the egg carton and just let them use markers on it. There's that way is always possible. Might be even fun to let some, if you have a lot of paint and you want to be a little messier, you can drip it. I just like the kids that I teach and I'm around to have lots of experiences. You never know what art someone's going to like. Boys and girls and parents, you never know what art someone's going to like when they get to be an adult. And so I like to give as many kinds of experiences. And I like more of the hands-on. I'm not as much a flat art person. I like to be able to give dimensional experiences. And I like it a lot when I can do it on found objects. Oh, there's a whole bunch of those stuck together. So you can tell they've been used before. Somebody else before us used these. I think I even remember when. Now, if the kids have problems with their fingers getting sticky, if you have problems with them with that, so once in a while you just take and you rub your fingers together. You rub your fingers together. That causes heat and friction, and that dries up the glue. And then you're ready to go again. So you could even take the pipe cleaner chenille wire and you could put it in on the top on each one of these if you wanted. You could do a whole bunch of legs that way. The kids could stick out and cut construction paper legs and glue on there. The ideas just go on and on. Okay, now I think I'm going to stop with those. I didn't get the other side done, but I also don't want to have you watch me just the whole time. Watch. I feel like that's not a lot of fun for you. Okay, so now I want to turn around and I'm going to look at my ends. Which end do I think looks the best? Oh, I think this one does. I think we're going to choose this one for his head. Okay. So actually this was my paper for that. If you don't have any white paper or colored paper, I found an old Christmas card. So I'm going to cut the eyes out. Take me a little rectangle here. Now if you want your eyes to look the same on each side, the trick is to fold your paper in half before you cut. Fold your paper in half before you cut and then trim the shape. Alright. Now I kind of like his eyes. Where's my other one? Oh, here he is. I kind of like them to be big. So that's what I'm doing. Just kind of overstating them. And this is also a good time to learn about the science. What is the science? Get out the book and talk about the science of caterpillars and what happens in the process and all. This is a great one that can relate well with science. Okay. Now it's going to take just a little bit longer with this because I have it was that Christmas card instead of the construction paper is more porous. Now let's see, does he need eyebrows? He might need eyebrows, or she. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't give you a name. What is your name? Oh, your name is Sally. Okay. Hi, Sally. And of course, eyes could always be drawn. You know, there's so many ways. So much fun to be had. There's so many projects. I do art off and on all the time. All right. Well, doggone, I think that turned out to be a mouth even if I wasn't trying. I just took a curve that was already there and I was going to sliver it off and try to make it straight. And it looks like a mouth, so I'm just going to use it. And this is also a time that you could talk about the fact that when we make something like this, it doesn't always look realistic. That artists sometimes take that and change it and make it a little bit of a representation, but we try to keep some of the items, the sections, like the caterpillars have the sections, and a lot of caterpillars are green. So, you know, there's all that kind of items, and depending on the level of the kid, you know, you go into a lot more detail with it. All right, I think for this caterpillar, his nose is just going to be, or her nose, Sally, just like this. Just a couple spots like that. All right. So you could have a fancy pipe cleaner if you have one. Chenille wire is what they're called in the craft store. However, a lot of us call them pipe cleaners. That's how they originated. So I am going to show you an alternative because, like I said, I like to show you different ways. I don't know what supplies you have, and I don't think you ought to have to go out and buy a whole bunch of supplies just for one little project. So I have twist ties, and I'm going to use the yellow ones. These are craft ones that were bought to make jewelry. They're gold. So I'm going to take these, and since they are the twist ties, I'm going to twist two together because I want it to be a little bit longer. Now, something that, depending on the age of your child, or boys and girls, you might have mom and dad do this, depending on your age, because we certainly don't want anybody to get hurt. I usually use a punch tool like this to punch in it. However, if I'm doing it like in a school setting or with several children, and I don't want them to get hurt, I have them use a pencil or an ink pen. A lot of times I would keep my old ink pens and have them do that. So now I'm going to fold this in half. I'm going to stick it through. Then I'm going to turn this underneath here. And I'm just going to kind of bend it to the side. Now, if it doesn't stay, you may need to come back later and do tape. Oh, see, this is the fun part. We could leave it just like that if we wanted. Or we could take and twirl it. Now, I think he needs a little something. She needs, I keep saying she needs a little something fluffy right there. So Sally's named after my granddaughter. My granddaughter's name in this game we are playing is Sally. So I named my caterpillar Sally because of that. Now I'm going to do fringe cutting. Let's see if I can move that out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Always a good skill for students to learn. Starting in as soon as they can cut, all the way up till they get it figured out. Now, on this, to make it fun, you want to do maybe a fan fold. So I'm just kind of bending it down, kind of like you would fan folding. You could also take the scissors. This would be boys and girls with mom and dad's permission, or whoever you're with on your skills. You can do it like that and it'll curl it. Sometimes it tears it off. And then another way you can do it is you can also take it and roll it around your pencil. And that will make it curl. Okay, I like the fan fold the best for the project we're doing. And you don't have to fan fold each one of them. You can kind of just fan fold it together and then fluff them up. And I'm going to roll this. And then I'm going to twist. I'm going to just give it a little twist here. See, I gave it a little twist, and then I'm going to cut a little bit of excess off. And that will also help you keep those antennas in there. All right, so this is Sally, and she's going to go visiting around my yard to see what she can find. Her friend Lydia is going to go with us. Now you can see the difference in how I made the eyes. You know, I always like to, like I say, give room for creativity. Anybody have a question about any of the techniques on there? I think it's fairly easy, but I'm always glad to help. If someone would like additional information about it, write me a message, and I'll be checking back at the, as this is posted, I'll be checking back in and seeing who made what kind of caterpillar, where their caterpillars had visited, and just see if we can stir up a little fun on Facebook. This is Sarah Poff, the Multimedia Storyteller. Thanks for coming along and enjoying my cool caterpillars with me. You have a great day now.